It starts like any other rainy Tuesday night commute. Marcus Reed, a sharp, successful software engineer, navigates the slick city streets, heading home after a long day coding. Then, the sudden, blinding flash of police lights fills his rear view mirror. A traffic stop. Annoying maybe, but nothing Marcus hasn't handled calmly before. Until it isn't routine. Officer Calvin Rourke approaches, dripping rainwater and radiating hostility. He yanks Marcus from his car for a phantom, broken taillight, slams him face down onto the wet pavement, the rough asphalt scraping skin. And then, under the watchful, supposedly objective eye of his own body camera, Rourke does the unthinkable. He plants a small baggie of narcotics near Marcus's hand. Rourke feels powerful, in control, certain his word and a little creative editing will bury this black man he instantly judged and decided to punish. But what Officer Rourke, stewing in his own prejudice, doesn't know, what he cannot fathom, is that the digital footage he thinks he controls holds secrets he can't erase. Those deleted seconds, the hidden metadata trails, they are about to be meticulously unearthed by one of the country's top digital forensic experts, a man who specializes in exposing lies hidden in pixels and code. Rourke didn't just assault a citizen, he created digital breadcrumbs leading directly back to his own crime, and an expert is about to follow that trail all the way to a courtroom reckoning. A storm of forensic discovery, public exposure, and irrefutable justice is coming for Officer Rourke. Stick around. Watching digital evidence expose a physical lie is something truly powerful. Hey, we see you joining us. Let us know where you're watching from tonight. Drop your city, state, or country in the comments. We're building a community here, witnessing these stories together, ready to find out exactly how it all went down. Buckle up, let's dive right in. Rain lashed against the windshield of Marcus Reed's meticulously maintained sedan, blurring the neon signs and streetlights of downtown into abstract streaks of color. It was nearly 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, and the fatigue from a 12-hour coding session pressed heavily on him. He navigated the wet streets with the careful precision that defined both his driving and his programming. Smooth lane changes signaled well in advance, steady speed, alert eyes scanning the treacherous reflections on the pavement. He was thinking about the complex algorithm he'd finally cracked today, the quiet satisfaction of elegant code, solving a messy problem, and looking forward to the simple comfort of his apartment, maybe a bowl of leftover chili and some mindless television. Before crashing, he signaled, checked his mirrors, and began a routine lane change on a relatively empty stretch of Market Street, well within the speed limit, giving ample room to the few other vehicles braving the downpour. That's when the world exploded in. Blue and red behind him. The sudden intensity of the police lights flashing directly in his rearview mirror was startling, aggressive. Marcus felt the familiar, unwelcome jolt in his gut, the instantaneous mix of annoyance, anxiety, and weary resignation that too often accompanied driving while black, regardless of how perfectly one adhered to the rules. He scanned his mental checklist. Was he speeding? No. Did he signal? Yes. Seatbelt on? Yes. Any visible equipment malfunction? Not that he was aware of. He sighed quietly, pulled over to the curb immediately beneath a sputtering streetlight, activated his hazard lights, turned off the ignition, and deliberately placed both hands high on the steering wheel, fingers spread slightly. The ritual felt both necessary and demeaning. The patrol car door slammed shut with a heavy thud that cut through the drumming rain. Marcus watched in his side mirror as Officer Calvin Rourke approached, his figure silhouetted against the flashing lights. Rourke moved with a tight-coiled energy, raindrops plastering his short-cropped hair to his skull. He carried himself with a certain pugnacious swagger, his hand resting near his holstered weapon. His eyes, when they finally met Marcus's through the rain-streaked window, were narrowed, hard, already radiating suspicion and hostility, before a single word was exchanged. Rourke bypassed the usual greetings or request for documents. He rapped sharply on the window with his flashlight. "Roll it down, all the way," he barked, his voice muffled but clearly audible. Marcus complied. Slowly, the window gliding down smoothly, letting in the damp, chilly air and the smell of wet asphalt. "Evening, officer," Marcus said, keeping his voice calm, neutral. "Is there a problem?" Rourke shone the flashlight beam directly into Marcus's face, forcing him to squint. "Problem is, your right taillight's out," Rourke stated flatly. It was a common pretext, almost cliché. Marcus felt a flash of irritation but kept his composure. "My taillight, officer. I did a walk around before leaving my office garage less than an hour ago. All my lights were functional." He wasn't being argumentative, merely stating a fact, hoping for clarification, but Rourke took it as a challenge. "Are you calling me a liar?" he snapped, leaning closer, invading the car's space. "I said it's out. Now license and registration." "Okay, officer," Marcus said, starting the narration, reaching slowly into my jacket for my wallet. "Get out of the car," Rourke suddenly roared, cutting him off. The command was unexpected, disproportionate to the alleged offense. "What? Why?" Marcus asked, genuinely confused now, alarm bells ringing louder. "I said get out, now." Rourke's hand was now firmly on his weapon. Fear, cold and sharp, began to replace Marcus's attempts at calm compliance. This felt wrong, dangerously wrong. Hesitantly, knowing refusal could escalate things further, Marcus unbuckled his seatbelt and reached for the door handle. The moment the door cracked open, Rourke yanked it wide, grabbing Marcus's arm with bruising force. "Hey!" Marcus protested, startled by the sudden violence. Rourke didn't respond with words. He hauled Marcus out of the car and onto the wet sidewalk with sheer brute force. Marcus stumbled, trying to regain his balance on the slick pavement, but Rourke shoved him hard from behind. "Hands behind your back! You're resisting!" Rourke yelled, though Marcus hadn't offered any resistance beyond the initial verbal protest. Marcus lost his footing completely, his hands instinctively going out to break his fall, but it was too late. Rourke slammed him face down onto the cold, gritty, rain-soaked concrete. The impact knocked the wind out of him, scraping his cheek, raw against the rough surface. Pain flared along his ribs and shoulder. He gasped for breath, the smell of wet pavement and exhaust fumes filling his nostrils, mixed with the faint coppery tang of blood from his scraped face. "I'm not resisting," Marcus choked out, his face pressed against the unforgiving ground. "What is this about?" Rourke ignored him, planting a heavy knee firmly in the center of his back, grinding his face further into the pavement. Marcus could feel the officer fumbling near his pockets, likely searching him roughly. The rain continued to fall, cold and indifferent, plastering Marcus's hair to his forehead, mingling with the blood trickling from his cheek. He felt utterly powerless, degraded, the victim of a sudden, inexplicable explosion of violence from the very person meant to uphold the law. He could see the small red recording light on the body camera, affixed to Rourke's chest, pointed down towards him, a silent digital witness to the unfolding nightmare. Pinned beneath Officer Rourke's heavy knee, the rough texture of the wet sidewalk grating against his cheek, Marcus Reed struggled just to draw a ragged breath. The initial shock of being yanked from his car and slammed to the ground was giving way to a terrifying clarity. This wasn't about a taillight. This wasn't about resisting arrest. He hadn't resisted. This was about something else entirely, something rooted in the cold hostility he'd seen in Rourke's eyes from the moment he approached the car. This was about power, about prejudice, about an officer deciding, for reasons known only to him, to inflict pain and assert absolute dominance. The rain plastered his clothes to his skin, chilling him to the bone, amplifying the throbbing pain in his shoulder and the sting on his scraped face. "Officer, please," Marcus managed, his voice muffled by the pavement. "I don't understand what's happening. I haven't done anything wrong." Rourke responded not with words, but by pressing his knee down harder, forcing a pained gasp from Marcus. "Shut up," Rourke growled, his voice low and menacing near Marcus's ear. "You ran that light back there, didn't you, driving like a maniac, probably high on something." The accusations were baseless, nonsensical, confirming for Marcus that Rourke was operating entirely outside the bounds of reason or procedure. He was creating a justification, post-incident, for his own aggression. Marcus felt Rourke's hands roughly patting him down, checking pockets. Finding nothing but a wallet, keys, and a phone, Rourke seemed almost disappointed. He straightened up slightly, his knee still pinning Marcus firmly, and glanced quickly up and down the deserted, rain-swept street. No witnesses, just the two of them, and the relentless downpour isolated in a pocket of sudden violence under the flickering streetlight. And, Marcus reminded himself, the body camera, still recording from Rourke's chest, its lens likely capturing the wet pavement, maybe the side of Marcus's head, and crucially, the area directly around them. It was a small, desperate anchor of hope in the terrifying situation. Then Marcus felt a subtle shift in Rourke's position, a slight fumbling movement near Rourke's own utility belt, obscured from Marcus's direct line of sight by the officer's body. What was he doing? A moment later, Rourke leaned down again, his voice taking on a different tone, one of feigned discovery. "Well, well, well," Rourke said, his voice laced with mock surprise. "What do we have here?" Marcus felt something small and hard being pressed roughly against the pavement near his outstretched hand, the one pinned awkwardly beneath his chest. He couldn't see it clearly, his face still forced against the ground, but he could feel the distinct shape through the thin fabric of his sleeve, a small plastic baggie likely containing something illegal. Panic, colder and sharper than before, lanced through him. No, he couldn't, but the cold reality was undeniable. Rourke was planting evidence, right there, on camera, though perhaps positioned just outside. The camera's direct view, relying on the angle and the rain to obscure the action. "Looks like we found the reason for your erratic driving after all," Rourke declared loudly now, clearly speaking for the benefit of the Bodycam microphone he assumed was only capturing audio clearly. "Found this little party favor right where you dropped it when I pulled you out." He roughly grabbed Marcus's hand, the one near the planted baggie, and pressed his fingers against it for a moment, likely trying to transfer residue or imply Marcus had been holding it. Marcus instinctively tried to pull his hand away, a surge of horrified revulsion coursing through him. "No, that's not mine. You put that there." Rourke just laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. Yeah, they all say that. Resisting arrest and possession of narcotics. You're in deep trouble, pal." With that, he finally pulled Marcus's arms behind his back, cinching handcuffs tightly, painfully, around his wrists. He hauled Marcus roughly to his feet, the sudden movement sending waves of dizziness and pain through him. As Rourke shoved him towards the waiting patrol car, Marcus caught a final glimpse of the small, incriminating baggie lying starkly against the dark, wet pavement, a seed of deception planted by the officer intended to frame him, to justify the assault, to destroy his reputation and potentially his freedom. The bodycam light still glowed red on Rourke's chest, a silent, potentially corrupted witness to the entire fabrication. Marcus felt a profound sense of violation, not just physical, but existential. His reality had been twisted, his rights obliterated, his character assassinated, all in a matter of minutes, all based on the whim of one prejudiced officer. The drive to the precinct was conducted in tense, suffocating silence, broken only by the rhythmic swish of the patrol car's wipers and the crackle of the police radio. Marcus sat in the back, separated by a thick plexiglass divider, the cold metal of the handcuffs biting into his wrists, his mind reeling from the shock and injustice of the past half hour. His cheek throbbed, his shoulder ached, and the wet chill of his rain-soaked clothes seeped into his bones. But worse than the physical discomfort was the sickening feeling of helplessness, the terrifying knowledge that Officer Rourke was actively framing him for crimes he didn't commit. He stared out at the blurred city lights, trying desperately to organize his thoughts, to formulate a plan, but the sheer audacity of the evidence planting left him floundering. How could he possibly prove his innocence against a police officer's sworn testimony and planted narcotics? His only hope, faint as it seemed right now, rested on that small red light he'd seen on Rourke's chest, the body cam. Surely, even if Rourke tried to obscure the planting itself, the footage would show the context, the lack of probable cause for the stop, the unprovoked escalation, the assault, the absence of any drugs during the initial pat-down. It had to show something. Officer Rourke, meanwhile, drove with a rigid focus, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. His earlier surge of adrenaline had faded, leaving behind a residue of anger mixed with a growing, gnawing anxiety. He knew he'd crossed a line. The slap, the rough takedown, that might be justifiable as necessary force against a resisting suspect. But planting the drugs, that was a different level entirely. It was a felony. If exposed, it meant not just losing his job, but facing serious prison time. He glanced nervously at the body camera unit mounted on his vest. It had been recording, he was sure of it. Had it captured too much? Had the angle been wrong? Could the rain and low light have obscured the crucial moment he dropped the baggie near Reed's hand? He couldn't be certain. The uncertainty ate at him. He needed to control the narrative, and the most crucial piece of that narrative was now stored on that small digital device. He needed to ensure the footage aligned perfectly with the report he was already composing in his head. The report that painted Marcus Reed as a dangerous drug-possessing suspect who violently resisted arrest. Upon arriving at the precinct, a drab, utilitarian building smelling faintly of stale coffee and disinfectant, Rourke escorted Marcus roughly through the booking area. He handed Marcus over to the custody sergeant with a curt explanation: resisting arrest, possession of suspected narcotics found at scene, before retreating quickly towards the men's locker room, citing the need to change out of his wet uniform. This detour was calculated. He knew most officers downloaded their body cam footage at the end of their shift, using the docking stations in the main report writing room, a relatively public space. He needed privacy. He needed a few crucial minutes alone with the device before it was officially logged and uploaded to the central evidence server. Inside the relative seclusion of the locker room, amidst the clang of metal lockers and the smell of damp uniforms, Rourke quickly detached the body camera unit from his vest. His hands trembled slightly as he connected it to his personal laptop via a USB cable, a violation of departmental policy, which mandated using only the secure docking stations, but a necessary risk. The camera's software interface popped up on his screen. He located the video file from the traffic stop, his heart pounding. He hit play, quickly scrubbing through the footage, his anxiety mounting. The initial stop was fine, his audio commands clear. The escalation, not great, but perhaps defensible as dealing with perceived non-compliance. The takedown was rough, but maybe justifiable under the circumstances he would later describe. He fast-forwarded to the critical moments when Marcus was pinned on the pavement. He watched himself lean down, saw his own hand move towards his pocket, then down near Marcus's hand. Damn it. The angle wasn't perfect, obscured partly by his own body in the rain, but it wasn't completely hidden either. A keen observer, especially one looking for it, might see the subtle motion, the way the baggie seemed to appear near Marcus's hand, rather than being pulled from it. It wasn't definitive proof of planting, perhaps, but it was ambiguous, dangerously ambiguous. Combined with the audio of Marcus immediately protesting, "That's not mine, you put that there." It was too risky, far too risky. He couldn't just delete the entire file. That would be an obvious red flag, creating a missing record. But the software, as he knew from experience and perhaps prior, less critical edits, allowed for segment deletion within a recording, often used legitimately to redact sensitive, bystander information or unrelated events captured during a long recording. It was designed for transparency edits, but it could be misused. He located the precise time codes, the 45 seconds encompassing his furtive movements, the planting of the baggie, and Marcus's immediate protest. His finger hovered over the delete segment button. This was it, tampering with official evidence, a serious felony. But the alternative, leaving that ambiguous, incriminating footage for investigators, defense attorneys, maybe even juries to scrutinize, seemed far more dangerous. With a surge of adrenaline masking his fear, he clicked the button. The software prompted a confirmation. Delete selected segment permanently. He clicked yes. The progress bar filled quickly. Those crucial 45 seconds vanished, leaving a seamless-looking jump in the video timestamp, noticeable only if someone knew exactly where and how to look for the missing frames or underlying metadata inconsistencies. He quickly saved the edited file back onto the camera, ejected the device, wiped down his laptop connection ports, and took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. He then proceeded to the official docking station, plugged in the now tampered body camera, and initiated the upload to the evidence server. Logging it as routine, he then sat down to write his official report, carefully crafting the narrative to match the edited footage, confident he had excised the most dangerous part of the truth. He felt a surge of relief, believing he had successfully buried his crime beneath layers of digital deception and official paperwork. He had no idea he had just created a digital crime scene that a true expert could meticulously reconstruct. Marcus Reed spent a harrowing 12 hours in the city's central holding cell. The initial shock and adrenaline had worn off, replaced by a bone-deep chill, exhaustion, and a gnawing anxiety. The small concrete room smelled stale. The cot was hard, and the distant sounds of the jail, clanging doors, indistinct shouting, echoing coughs, were unnerving. He replayed the events of the traffic stop over and over in his mind, dissecting every word, every action, searching for something he could have done differently, but always arriving back at the same sickening conclusion. Officer Rourke had targeted him, assaulted him and framed him, likely motivated by nothing more than racial prejudice and a bruised ego. The feeling of powerlessness was overwhelming. He was an educated professional, successful in his field, yet in that moment on the rain-slicked pavement, none of it had mattered. He was just another black man facing the crushing weight of a system that seemed designed to presume his guilt. His one phone call had gone to his older sister Sarah, who arrived frantic and tearful, but quickly shifted into protective older sister mode, promising to contact lawyers immediately. By mid-morning, Sarah had delivered. Standing beside Marcus, at his arraignment hearing, looking sharp and radiating fierce determination, was Leah Grant. Leah wasn't just any lawyer. She was one of the city's most respected and tenacious civil rights attorneys, known for her meticulous preparation, her sharp courtroom presence, and her unwavering commitment to clients facing police misconduct and wrongful accusations. She ran a small, dedicated non-profit law firm that took on challenging cases pro bono, often going up against the city's powerful police union and experienced municipal lawyers. Sarah had reached out through a community network, and upon hearing the preliminary details, the questionable stop, the alleged assault, the planted drugs, Leah had immediately agreed to represent Marcus. Leah listened intently as Marcus, now cleaned up, but still bearing the faint marks on his cheek and a haunted look in his eyes, recounted the entire incident in the quiet confidentiality of a courthouse meeting room after he was released on his own recognizance, thanks to his clean record and Leah's arguments. He described Kincaid's hostility, the fabricated taillight, claim, the sudden escalation, the assault, and crucially, the moment he felt the baggie being planted near his hand. He also mentioned seeing the body camera recording light. He planted it, Leah, Marcus insisted, his voice low but firm. I know he did, but it's my word against his. How can we possibly prove it? Leah nodded slowly, her expression thoughtful, but resolute. Proving it won't be easy, Marcus, especially if he denies it, and there are no other witnesses. Officer Kincaid has a history. We're already pulling his complaint file. But internal affairs often circles the wagons. His report, she tapped the copy she'd already obtained, is exactly what you'd expect. Claims you were driving erratically, resisted arrest, and the narcotics were found incident to arrest, after you allegedly dropped them. She paused. But you mentioned the body camera. That's our potential key. Standard procedure requires activation during traffic stops, especially confrontational ones. We'll file discovery requests immediately for the full, unedited footage, including all associated metadata. Marcus sighed. I saw the light was on. Leah, but what if he edited it? What if he managed to obscure the moment he planted it? He had time between arresting me and getting back to the precinct. Leah's eyes sharpened. That's where things get interesting, she said, a hint of steel entering her voice. Rourke might think he can just hit delete and make incriminating seconds disappear, but digital evidence, especially from police body cameras operating on standard city systems, leaves footprints. Deleting segments often creates gaps in the frame counts, inconsistencies in the file size, breaks in the audio stream, and hidden artifacts in the underlying data, the metadata. It takes specialized expertise to find those footprints, but they're almost always there if you know where and how to look. She leaned forward slightly. And I know exactly who to call. She explained her plan. While they would fight the charges head-on, questioning the legality of the stop and the inconsistencies. In Rourke's report, their primary strategy would be to challenge the integrity of the Bodycam footage itself. She intended to hire Dr. Elijah Cole, a name that carried significant weight in legal and forensic circles. Dr. Cole was a former NYPD detective turned independent digital forensics analyst, renowned for his almost preternatural ability to uncover tampering in digital evidence, deleted files, altered timestamps, manipulated video. He had testified as an expert witness in numerous high-profile cases, often exposing misconduct hidden within seemingly clean digital records. His expertise was expensive, but Leah's nonprofit had contingency funds for exactly these kinds of critical expert analyses in pro bono civil rights cases. "Elijah is brilliant," Leah assured Marcus. "He eats encrypted data streams for breakfast. If Rourke manipulated that footage in any way, deleted even a single second, altered the audio, anything, Elijah will find it. He can reconstruct digital timelines, analyze compression artifacts, expose metadata inconsistencies that standard reviews would miss. He's our secret weapon." Hearing Leah's confidence, seeing the strategic path forward, focused not just on defense but on exposing Rourke's cover-up through technical expertise, Marcus felt the first real flicker of hope since the ordeal began. The fight was far from over, but now they had a direction, a strategy, and potentially a digital key to unlock the truth Rourke had tried so desperately to bury. Dr. Elijah Cole's digital forensics lab wasn't housed in a gleaming corporate tower or a sterile government facility. It occupied the cluttered basement of a nondescript brownstone in a quiet Brooklyn neighborhood, a space filled with humming servers, multiple high-resolution monitors displaying cascading lines of code, and shelves overflowing with technical manuals and disassembled hardware components. Elijah himself seemed almost part of the ecosystem. Mid-40s, sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, dressed usually in comfortable jeans and a worn university sweatshirt, fueled by copious amounts of strong black coffee and an obsessive dedication to uncovering truth hidden within binary code. His quiet, almost ascetic lifestyle belied a formidable reputation. He was the go-to expert when digital evidence felt off, when official records seemed too clean, when defense attorneys or internal investigators suspected tampering but couldn't pinpoint it. His background as an NYPD detective in their cybercrimes unit gave him invaluable insight into police procedures, evidence handling protocols, and, crucially, the common ways officers sometimes tried and often failed to manipulate digital records. He had seen the tricks, understood the software limitations, and knew precisely where to dig for the digital ghosts left behind by deletion or alteration. When Leah Grant called him about Marcus Reed's case, Elijah listened intently, his fingers automatically sketching notes on a digital tablet. Traffic stop, alleged assault, planted drugs, bodycam footage likely tampered with. It was a depressingly familiar pattern, yet each case presented unique technical challenges he found intellectually stimulating. He respected Leah's work immensely. Her cases were always meticulously prepared, and her commitment to civil rights resonated with his own reasons for leaving the force, a growing disillusionment with the internal mechanisms that often protected officers over citizens. He agreed to take the case immediately, his fee waived under his standing pro bono arrangement with Leah's non-profit for cases involving significant civil rights implications. Leah's team secured the official bodycam footage file from Officer Rourke's camera via discovery, along with the corresponding metadata logs provided, often reluctantly, by the police department's IT division and the bodycam vendor's evidence management system, Axon, Taser, etc. This digital package was securely transferred to Elijah's lab. He didn't just watch the video file itself on a standard player. That was merely the surface layer. His real work began deep within the file's structure and the associated logs. He loaded the primary video file, time-stamped, watermarked, seemingly intact, into specialized forensic software designed to analyze digital video integrity. He ran initial diagnostics checking for common signs of manipulation, inconsistencies in the video codec, unusual compression artifacts, abrupt changes in bitrate or resolution. At first glance, the edited file Rourke had uploaded appeared relatively clean, suggesting Rourke had some familiarity with the system, or had perhaps used the built-in segment deletion tool rather than a cruder editing method. But Elijah knew the surface rarely told the whole story. His focus shifted to the metadata, the hidden information embedded within the file and stored in separate logs by the camera and the evidence management system. This data tracked everything. When the recording started and stopped, GPS coordinates, orientation sensor data, showing if the camera was tilted or jostled, battery levels, and crucially, internal frame counts and segment markers. Tampering, especially deleting segments, often left subtle discrepancies in this metadata. Like invisible fingerprints at a digital crime scene, he meticulously compared the timestamps embedded within the video file itself against the timestamps recorded in the separate log files generated by the camera's operating system and the docking station upon upload. Were there gaps, overlaps, unexplained discrepancies? He analyzed the frame counter data. Body cameras record video as a sequence of individual frames, typically 30 per second. A seamless recording should have a continuous, unbroken frame count. Deleting a segment, even using the built-in tools, often resulted in non-sequential frame numbers or missing blocks of frames that sophisticated analysis could detect. He ran algorithms designed to identify these discontinuities. He then turned his attention to a more obscure, but often revealing aspect: thumbnail caches and temporary files. Body cameras, like many digital devices, often generate small thumbnail images or temporary file fragments during recording and processing. Sometimes, even after a segment is deleted from the main video file, remnants of these thumbnails or temporary data corresponding to the deleted moments can linger in hidden cache folders on the device's internal memory or within the structure of the uploaded file itself, invisible to standard viewers but recoverable with forensic tools. Accessing these required a forensic image, an exact bit-by-bit copy, of the camera's internal memory, something Lear would need to specifically request in discovery, arguing that the initial metadata review suggested potential tampering necessitating deeper analysis. Elijah prepared a preliminary report for Lear outlining the technical justification for demanding that forensic image. He explained how comparing the recovered thumbnails or temporary files against the official edited video could provide visual proof of what was missing. The digital archaeology had begun. He felt the familiar thrill of the hunt, the intellectual challenge of piecing together fragmented data to expose a hidden truth. He suspected Rourke's attempt at deception, while perhaps clever on the surface, wouldn't hold up under deep forensic scrutiny. The ghost in the machine was starting to whisper. Armed with Dr. Cole's preliminary technical affidavit outlining the potential for discovering evidence of tampering within the body camera's internal memory, Leah Grant filed an aggressive discovery motion. She argued persuasively before a judge that the initial metadata review, coupled with the serious nature of the allegations against Officer Rourke and the inconsistencies between his report and Marcus Reed's account, necessitated a full forensic imaging of the body camera device itself. The city attorney's office objected strenuously, citing privacy concerns and departmental policy, but Leah countered effectively, highlighting established legal precedents for forensic examination of digital evidence when tampering is credibly suspected. The judge, recognizing the gravity of the case and the specificity of Dr. Cole's technical reasoning, granted the motion, ordering the police department to surrender Officer Rourke's specific body camera unit, identified by serial number, to Dr. Cole's lab for a limited court-supervised forensic imaging process. This was a significant victory. Getting access to the physical device, not just the uploaded file, opened up a new level of forensic analysis. Once the camera arrived at his lab, sealed in an evidence bag and accompanied by chain of custody documentation, Elijah Cole set to work immediately. Using specialized hardware and software, he created a perfect bit-for-bit forensic image of the camera's internal flash memory, a digital snapshot preserving every piece of data, including potentially deleted files, hidden caches, and system logs exactly as it existed on the device. This process was meticulous, ensuring no data was altered during the duplication. With the forensic image securely created and verified, he could now perform deep analysis without risk of contaminating the original evidence. Elijah focused first on the file allocation table and unallocated space within the camera's memory. When a file segment is deleted, often the data itself isn't immediately overwritten. Instead, the system simply marks the space it occupied as available for new data. Using sophisticated data carving tools, Elijah scanned this unallocated space, searching for residual data fragments, orphaned file clusters, or temporary video buffers that might correspond to the time frame Marcus Reed had described, the crucial moments when the alleged evidence planting occurred. It was like searching for fragments of pottery in an archaeological dig, painstaking work requiring patience and expertise. Simultaneously, he delved into the camera's internal system logs and hidden cache directories. These areas, often inaccessible through normal user interfaces, frequently store operational data, error reports, and, crucially, temporary files like video thumbnails generated during recording or processing. He targeted specific cache folders known to be used by the Bodycam's operating system, and there, amidst a jumble of seemingly random system files, he found it. A small cluster of thumbnail image files, tuichem or similar, bearing timestamps that fell precisely within the gap identified in the main video file's metadata. These weren't full video frames, but low-resolution still images the camera generated periodically. Critically, several of these thumbnails depicted Officer Rourke leaning down towards Marcus Reed on the pavement, his hand positioned near Marcus's, hand in a way subtly different from the frames immediately preceding and following the deleted segment in the official video. And one thumbnail, time-stamped exactly during the missing 45 seconds, clearly showed a small dark object, consistent in size and shape with the baggie later recovered, on the pavement near Marcus's hand, but not in it, captured just fractions of a second before Rourke appeared to press Marcus's fingers towards it. It was the digital ghost, the undeniable remnant of the deleted truth. While not full video, the sequence of recovered thumbnails, when compared frame by frame with the officially submitted footage, demonstrated a clear visual discontinuity. They showed Rourke's incriminating movements and the sudden appearance of the baggie during the exact time frame that was missing from the main recording. Elijah cross-referenced the timestamps on these thumbnails with the gaps he'd already identified in the metadata logs and frame counters. Everything aligned perfectly. He now had definitive visual proof, recoverable only through advanced forensic techniques, that Officer Rourke had deliberately deleted a specific segment of the recording, and that segment contained images strongly corroborating Marcus Reed's claim of evidence planting. Elijah meticulously documented his findings, preparing a comprehensive forensic report complete with screenshots of the recovered thumbnails, metadata analysis charts, explanations of the data carving process, and his expert opinion concluding that the Bodycam footage, submitted as evidence, had been intentionally altered by the deletion of a critical 45-second segment, and that recovered artifacts from that segment were consistent with the complainant's allegations. He felt a surge of quiet triumph, the satisfaction of complex problem-solving combined with the righteous vindication of exposing a lie designed to destroy an innocent man's life. He contacted Leah Grant immediately. "Leah," he said, his voice calm but holding an undercurrent of excitement, "I've got it. Undeniable proof of tampering. Rourke deleted the evidence, but he couldn't delete the digital fingerprints. We can show exactly what he tried to hide." The foundation for Officer Rourke's carefully constructed lies was about to crumble spectacularly. Leah Grant scheduled the pre-trial hearing with a sense of focused anticipation. The purpose was ostensibly to argue routine motions regarding evidence admissibility, but her true goal was strategic, to confront Officer Rourke and the city's attorneys with Dr. Elijah Cole's explosive forensic findings before a jury trial commenced. She wanted to see their reaction, gauge their defense strategy, and potentially leverage the revelation to force a favorable resolution or dismissal of charges against Marcus without enduring the trauma and uncertainty of a full trial. The hearing took place in a small, sterile courtroom used for preliminary matters, presided over by Judge Eleanor Davies, a no-nonsense jurist known for her sharp legal mind and intolerance for procedural gamesmanship. Marcus Reed sat beside, Leah at the defense table, looking composed but understandably tense, his future hanging in the balance. Across the aisle sat Officer Calvin Rourke, looking smugly confident in his uniform, flanked by his police union attorney and a junior lawyer from the city attorney's office representing the department. Rourke still believed his edited footage and sworn report were unassailable. He likely viewed this hearing as a mere formality, another step towards validating his actions and securing Marcus's conviction. Leah began by addressing the admissibility of the Bodycam footage itself. "Your Honor," she stated calmly, rising to address Judge Davies, "the defense has significant concerns regarding the integrity of the body-worn camera footage provided by the prosecution as evidence in this case, specifically the recording from Officer Rourke's camera during the arrest of my client, Mr. Reed." The city attorney immediately objected. "Objection, Your Honor. Defense counsel is speculating. The footage was submitted through proper channels, logged into evidence according to procedure." "There's no basis," Judge Davies cut him off with a raised hand. "Counselor Grant, on what grounds do you challenge the footage's integrity? Do you have specific evidence?" This was Leah's cue. "Yes, Your Honor," she replied firmly. "We retained the services of Dr. Elijah Cole, a nationally recognized expert in digital forensics, to analyze the provided footage and associated metadata. Dr. Cole has prepared a comprehensive forensic report which we have provided to opposing counsel and wish to summarize for the court." She nodded towards Dr. Cole, who sat quietly in the gallery, ready to be called if needed, his presence alone causing a slight stir among those familiar with his reputation. Leah continued, "Dr. Cole's analysis reveals undeniable evidence of tampering. Specifically, he identified a precise 45-second gap in the recording, corresponding exactly to the critical moments when my client alleges Officer Rourke planted evidence near his person. This gap is confirmed by non-sequential frame counts, inconsistencies between the video file metadata and the server logs, and crucially," she paused for emphasis, her gaze sweeping towards Officer Rourke, "Dr. Cole was able to recover deleted thumbnail cache files generated by the camera during those missing 45 seconds. A low murmur went through the few observers in the courtroom. Rourke shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his confident smirk faltering slightly, replaced by a flicker of confusion and unease. His union attorney leaned over, whispering urgently to him. Leah pressed on, her voice clear and unwavering. "These recovered thumbnail images, Your Honor, while low resolution, provide visual fragments of the events Officer Rourke attempted to delete. They depict Officer Rourke leaning over my client in a manner inconsistent with the surrounding footage, and most critically, show the sudden appearance of the alleged narcotics baggie on the pavement near Mr. Reed's hand, not in it, just prior to Officer Rourke appearing to manipulate Mr. Reed's fingers towards the baggie." She let the description hang in the air. Dr. Cole concludes with expert certainty that the official footage submitted by the prosecution was intentionally altered by Officer Rourke to remove incriminating evidence of both the evidence planting and Mr. Reed's immediate verbal protestations, captured on the audio track during that deleted segment. The impact in the small courtroom was palpable. The junior city attorney looked stunned, clearly blindsided by the revelation of recovered deleted data. Rourke's face had gone stark white, his eyes wide with disbelief and growing panic. He stared at Leah, then darted a look towards Dr. Cole in the gallery, as if just now realizing the significance of the expert's presence. The union attorney scrambled through his papers, likely finding Dr. Cole's report, his expression grim. Judge Davies leaned forward, her expression serious, her gaze fixed on Leah. "Counselor, this is an extremely serious allegation, backed by an expert report claiming forensic proof of evidence, tampering by the arresting officer. Mr. City Attorney, your response?" The city attorney rose hesitantly. "Your Honor, we only just received Dr. Cole's report this morning. We haven't had time to fully review its technical findings or consult our own experts. We strongly contest any implication of tampering by Officer Rourke." His voice lacked conviction. The forensic evidence, especially the recovery of deleted thumbnails, was devastatingly specific and hard to refute without a counter-expert. Leah had strategically dropped the bomb, exposing Rourke's lie and the weakness of the prosecution's case in one swift move, right before the judge's eyes. Officer Rourke looked physically ill, the color draining completely from his face, as the weight of Dr. Cole's findings, the undeniable proof of his digital deception, crashed down upon him. The pre-trial hearing had just become Officer Rourke's worst nightmare. The revelation of Dr. Cole's forensic findings during the pre-trial hearing sent shockwaves through the courtroom and, soon after, through the police department and the city attorney's office. Officer Rourke, visibly shaken and furious at being exposed, left the courthouse tight-lipped, flanked by his union attorney, refusing to answer reporters' questions that were already starting to swirl based on courtroom whispers. He felt cornered, betrayed by technology he thought he could control, and enraged at Leah Grant and the expert who had unmasked him. His arrogance morphed into a volatile mix of fear and vindictive anger. He wasn't ready to go down without a fight, and his instincts turned towards intimidation, a tactic he had likely employed successfully in the past. A few evenings later, Dr. Elijah Cole was working late in his Brooklyn lab, analyzing data from another case, when he noticed the same dark sedan with tinted windows passed slowly down his quiet residential street for the third time in an hour. His senses, honed by years as an NYPD detective, immediately registered it as surveillance. He discreetly checked the feed from his own exterior security cameras. The footage confirmed it. The sedan, occupied by three men whose features were difficult to discern clearly in the low light, was deliberately loitering, occasionally parking just out of direct sightline but clearly observing his brownstone. One of the men vaguely resembled Officer Rourke. Elijah felt a chill, not of fear but of cold anger. This was amateurish, thuggish intimidation, likely orchestrated by Rourke, and perhaps a couple of sympathetic colleagues trying to rattle him, scare him off the case before the trial. He meticulously saved the surveillance footage, documenting the car's license plate, partially obscured but potentially traceable, and the times of its passes. He refused to be intimidated. He immediately contacted Leah Grant, informing her of the blatant surveillance attempt, providing her with the footage. This wasn't just witness tampering. It was potentially obstruction of justice, adding another layer to Rourke's rapidly mounting legal problems. Leah Grant, meanwhile, recognized the strategic advantage Dr. Cole's findings provided. With the judge now aware of the evidence tampering and the city's case against Marcus Reed crumbling, Leah decided to increase the pressure publicly, forcing the district attorney's hand and galvanizing community support. Working carefully with Marcus and Dr. Cole to ensure they weren't violating any court orders regarding pre-trial publicity, she prepared a carefully redacted snippet of evidence for release. It wasn't the full recovered thumbnail sequence. That was reserved for trial, but something equally potent. A short audio clip extracted by Dr. Cole from the periphery of the deleted 45-second segment, capturing Marcus Reed's clear, desperate voice saying, "No, that's not mine. You put that there," followed immediately by Officer Rourke's harsh retort, "Shut up, you're resisting." This audio fragment, juxtaposed against the official police report claiming Marcus dropped the drugs, was explosive on its own. Leah provided the audio clip, along with a concise summary of Dr. Cole's findings about the deleted footage without revealing the recovered thumbnails yet, to a trusted investigative journalist known for tackling police misconduct stories. Simultaneously, she shared it with several prominent civil rights organizations and community leaders. The story broke the next day, and the impact was immediate and overwhelming. Hearing Marcus's voice directly accusing the officer of planting, evidence coupled with the expert confirmation that critical Bodycam footage had been deleted by that same officer, ignited a firestorm. Local news channels played the audio clip repeatedly. Social media erupted. The hashtag Release the Full Tape began trending nationally, alongside Chun Justice for Marcus Reed and Honks Delete the Deceit. Protesters gathered outside police headquarters and the EE District Attorney's office, holding signs demanding Rourke's immediate firing and arrest, and calling for transparency regarding the missing bodycam footage. The narrative shifted dramatically. Marcus Reed was no longer just a defendant accused of drug possession and resisting arrest. He was now widely seen as the victim of a blatant frame-up and police cover-up, with digital forensic evidence hinting at the truth. The district attorney, facing immense public pressure and the undeniable strength of the forensic findings presented by Leah, who formally shared Dr. Cole's full report with the DA's office, was now forced to seriously reconsider the charges against Marcus and, more significantly, to launch a criminal investigation into Officer Rourke himself. Rourke's clumsy intimidation attempt against Dr. Cole and Leah's strategic media leak had backfired spectacularly, turning up the heat and cornering him further under the harsh glare of public outrage. The trial, when it finally commenced weeks later, felt almost anticlimactic in its inevitability. Yet the tension in the courtroom was palpable. The gallery was packed. Community activists, concerned citizens, Marcus Reed's family and friends, law students, and a phalanx of reporters, all drawn by the explosive case that had dominated local headlines thanks to the leaked audio and the reports of deleted bodycam footage. Marcus sat at the defense table beside Leah Grant, looking composed, but carrying the undeniable weight of the ordeal. Across the aisle, Officer Calvin Rourke sat stiffly beside his union attorney, his face pale and drawn, the arrogant swagger completely gone, replaced by a hunted, almost desperate look. The district attorney's office, under immense public pressure and armed with Dr. Cole's forensic report, had reluctantly dropped the drug possession and resisting arrest charges against Marcus just days before the trial was set to begin, effectively exonerating him. However, the separate criminal trial against Rourke for evidence tampering, perjury based on his false report, and potential civil rights violations was now proceeding, with Marcus and Dr. Cole as the key witnesses for the prosecution. The prosecution laid out its case methodically, presenting the initial traffic stop details, Marcus's testimony about the assault and evidence planting, and the clear inconsistencies in Rourke's official report. But the undeniable centerpiece of the trial was the testimony of Dr. Elijah Cole. Called to the stand as an expert witness in digital forensics, Dr. Cole calmly, meticulously, and devastatingly dismantled Officer Rourke's digital cover-up. Using large monitors visible to the judge, jury, and gallery, Leah Grant, now assisting the prosecution team in presenting the forensic evidence she had uncovered, guided Dr. Cole through his findings. He explained the concept of metadata, frame counts, and hidden cache files in clear, understandable language. He demonstrated the precise 45-second gap in the official bodycam footage submitted by Rourke, highlighting the non-sequential timestamps and missing frame data. He detailed the process of forensic imaging and data carving that allowed him to recover the deleted thumbnail files from the camera's internal memory. Then came the climax. "Dr. Cole," Leah prompted, her voice ringing with quiet intensity, "please show the court the sequence of thumbnail images recovered from the time segment Officer Rourke deleted from the official recording." Elijah nodded, and a series of images flashed onto the courtroom monitors. Though low resolution compared to the main video, the thumbnails were clear enough. They showed Rourke leaning over Marcus. They showed the sudden appearance of the small baggie near Marcus's hand. They showed Rourke's hand moving towards Marcus's fingers. They provided the visual narrative Rourke had desperately tried to erase. A collective gasp went through the gallery. The jury members leaned forward, their eyes wide, fixated on the images that proved the planting. Rourke visibly flinched at the defense table, looking away from the monitors, unable to face the visual proof of his own crime. Rourke's defense attorney attempted a vigorous cross-examination, trying to discredit Dr. Cole's methods, suggesting the thumbnails were corrupted, data, or misinterpreted artifacts. But Elijah remained unshakable, patiently explaining the scientific rigor behind forensic data recovery, citing checksum verifications and metadata corroboration, batting away the defense attorney's attempts to muddy the waters with technical jargon. His calm expertise and the visual evidence were simply overwhelming. Finally, Leah requested permission to play the segment of the Bodycam footage immediately before and after the deleted section, alongside the recovered thumbnail sequence, placed in its correct chronological position. "Your Honor," she argued, "the jury needs to see the full context, see exactly what Officer Rourke attempted to hide." The defense objected vehemently, but Judge Davies, having seen the forensic report and heard Dr. Cole's testimony, overruled. "The jury will see the evidence in its entirety, including the recovered portions," she declared firmly. The lights dimmed slightly. The courtroom held its breath as the footage played. First the official video showing Rourke leaning over Marcus, then the screen split, showing the recovered thumbnail sequence filling the 45-second gap, the C. Baggy appearing, Rourke manipulating Marcus's hand, then seamlessly transitioning back to the official video, showing Rourke suddenly discovering the drugs. The visual lie, the deliberate deception was laid bare for everyone to see. Audible gasps and murmurs filled the courtroom again. Several jury members shook their heads slowly, their expressions a mixture of shock and disgust. Officer Rourke slumped in his chair, his face ashen, defeated. The digital ghost unearthed by forensic science had delivered its irrefutable testimony. The truth, deleted but not destroyed, had finally, devastatingly, come to light. The jury deliberation was remarkably swift. Faced with Dr. Cole's unshakable forensic testimony and the damning visual evidence presented by the recovered thumbnail sequence, they returned a unanimous verdict after less than 2 hours: guilty. Officer Calvin Rourke was found guilty on all major counts: felony evidence tampering, perjury for filing the false report, and violation of Marcus Reed's civil rights under the color of law. The courtroom was silent as the verdict was read, but a palpable wave of relief and vindication washed over Marcus, his family, and the community activists gathered in the gallery. Rourke himself showed little reaction, seemingly resigned to his fate, avoiding eye contact as he was immediately taken into custody pending sentencing. Justice, often elusive in cases of police misconduct, felt tangible in that moment. Rourke was later sentenced to a significant prison term, sending a clear message through the department and the city that evidence tampering and racially motivated abuses of power would not be tolerated, especially when proven so definitively. His conviction became a landmark case, often cited in discussions about digital evidence, body cam policies, and police accountability nationwide. The repercussions extended beyond Rourke's individual fate. The district attorney's office, prompted by the evidence uncovered during the Rourke investigation and facing continued public pressure, launched a broader probe into the handling of citizen complaints within the police department, particularly those involving allegations of bias or excessive force that had previously been dismissed. This probe led to the reopening of several older cases, disciplinary actions against a handful of supervisors found to have consistently ignored patterns of misconduct, and ultimately contributed to the push for a more robust and independent civilian oversight board with greater investigative powers. The single body cam Rourke tried to manipulate ended up shining a light on potentially systemic issues far beyond his own actions. For Marcus Reed, being fully exonerated was only the beginning. The ordeal had profoundly impacted him. While relieved by the verdict and grateful for the work of Leah Grant and Dr. Cole, he felt a responsibility extending beyond his own vindication. He had the resources, financial and emotional, to fight back, aided by top-tier legal and forensic expertise. He knew countless others, facing similar injustices, lacked those resources. Determined to turn his traumatic experience into something positive, Marcus became an outspoken advocate for police reform, focusing specifically on body camera transparency and the need for independent forensic audits of digital evidence in contested cases. He shared his story, carefully navigating legal constraints, at community forums, legislative hearings, and tech conferences, arguing powerfully for policies that ensured body cam footage was securely stored, accessible, and subject to rigorous, unbiased review. His background as a software engineer gave his advocacy unique credibility, allowing him to speak knowledgeably about data integrity, metadata analysis, and the technological safeguards needed to prevent tampering. Leah Grant and Dr. Elijah Cole. Recognizing the unique synergy of their skills and the growing need for specialized expertise in combating digital manipulation by law enforcement, decided to formalize their collaboration. They co-founded a non-profit organization, the Digital Integrity Project, dedicated to providing pro bono or low-cost digital forensic analysis for civil rights cases involving suspected evidence tampering. They trained other lawyers and investigators on forensic techniques, developed best practice guidelines for handling digital evidence, and advocated for stricter national standards for Bodycam data retention and auditing. Their work began making a tangible difference in cases across the country, ensuring that the digital witnesses meant to provide accountability couldn't be easily silenced by those seeking to hide the truth. Marcus, while continuing his successful tech career, devoted significant time to supporting the Digital Integrity Project and other reform initiatives. He found healing not in forgetting the assault on the Rainey Street, but in transforming that violation into fuel for positive change. He knew the fight for true justice and equality was ongoing, a complex code that still needed significant debugging, but he was no longer just a victim. He was an engineer of change, working alongside others to rewrite the system. One line of code, one legal precedent, one empowered voice at a time. They say the camera doesn't lie, but humans do. Officer Rourke tried to use his authority to silence Marcus Reed and technology to bury the truth of his own violence and prejudice. He believed a few deleted seconds, a fabricated report, would be enough to protect him, relying on the power imbalance and the system's inertia. What he failed to understand is that in the digital age, deleting isn't always erasing. He left behind invisible fingerprints, digital ghosts in the machine, waiting for an expert eye to uncover them. For those of us who live in a world saturated with digital records, who know the power and peril of technology, and especially for those who have faced injustice where the official story conflicts with reality, this story speaks volumes. We know how vulnerable it feels when truth seems impossible to prove against a wall of denial or corrupted evidence. Maybe you've felt silenced because you lacked proof. Maybe you've suspected official records were incomplete or manipulated. Maybe you've wondered if technology, often used for surveillance, could ever truly serve justice for the ordinary person. But this story demonstrates the incredible power of forensic truth-seeking. Dr. Elijah Cole's expertise didn't just recover deleted files, it recovered justice. It shows that even when physical evidence is obscured or denied, the digital trail can sometimes shout the truth. Marcus Reed's resilience, combined with Leah Grant's legal strategy and Dr. Cole's technical brilliance, highlights that fighting back against injustice requires courage, skill, and sometimes the ability to make the machines talk. It reminds us that accountability in the digital age requires not just transparency policies, but the independent expertise to verify that transparency is real. Power here came from the relentless pursuit of truth hidden in the code. So if this story captivated you, if it made you appreciate the intricate dance between technology and justice, if it simply reaffirmed your belief that truth, even when deleted, can ultimately be recovered, please share this message, like this video. Share it with someone who needs to know that evidence can be hidden but rarely destroyed entirely, and that dedicated experts are fighting to ensure digital records serve accountability, not cover-ups. Until next time, question the narrative, demand transparency, and believe in the power of forensic truth.